Welcome to the Christian Leadership and Resilience Podcast, where faith meets leadership. And resilience is more than just a mindset, it's a calling. I'm Romeo Al-Char.
And I am Christine and Agaibi, and we're here to guide you through real conversations that equip you to lead fearlessly, serve humbly, and rise strongly, no matter the challenges ahead.
Every episode, we dive into stories, principles, and practical tools rooted in Scripture and lived experience to help you grow as a Christian leader.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of our Christian Resilience and Leadership Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about an important topic about how we can lead during challenging times. As we know, there has been a lot of changes, especially towards the end of this year, related to government shutdowns, related to insurance issues, and these things impact everything from large corporations down to small businesses, of course, and that trickles down to our families and to our individual lives as well. And so today we're going to discuss how leaders can lead even during challenging times, because sometimes when we are faced with very much difficulty, we experience things like fight or flight or freeze or fawn, which are trauma responses that happen to try to protect us from difficulty and challenge. So today we're going to talk about some of the challenges that have been going on in the United States and in countries around the world as well, and then also how to face this from both a resilient leadership, and Christian perspective. Romeo, what do you think about some of these things?
Well, this is very. It's obvious that it's very challenging what the U.S. is going through. Not only as a government, or it's also as people, and that's where the most important part of the pie. The government shutdown. It was not something normal. Lasted for around 40 days. That's long period for a government or like United States being crippled in that way. That impact lives, thousands and millions of lives actually. That related to a lot of families impacted by this. That their employees that work in the government in the public sector, that they were like sent home, and there was delays for their pays, and nobody knew where things were heading. And also there's a lot of small businesses that they were impacted because of many things that's happening in the States, because the fear. And I was talking to a lot of friends around me that they have small businesses, and they were all worried. They said, Romeo, things are slowing down. The business are not like usual. Like 1 month ago, those conversations were not going. Like everything was good. The business was okay. The opportunities are okay. But after that shutdown, things changed, and people are kind of hesitating to spend money. And that is very dangerous for small businesses, because that's what makes those small businesses to keep moving forward, to keep funding their businesses. And when you say this, funding their lifestyle, or getting all what their families need, the basics at least. Then comes the healthcare, there was a huge impact on so many families and millions of Americans. So during those times, we need to address those issues, so we make sure that we can just move on into those times. That's what resilience is all about. What to do next, how to handle those situations, how we can overcome the fear, what to do next, how to read between the lines. What about the tariffs? What about the deals that's happening around? What about XYZ? And now we're heading to 2026. Also, there is the impact of tariffs, the impact of the changes that happened. What's going to happen to the next shutdown? It's going to happen again like this one or not? Because it's after 3 months, this is going to occur again. All these can make people's lives so hard. And I hear the questions. How to handle those situations? How during those hard times, as Americans, as people living in this place, how we need to act and react so we can just keep our heads on our shoulder. So that's what we're gonna try to discuss today and address it, so we can just help to move on in these during those challenging times.
Yeah, as we always say that resilience is a muscle that needs to grow. So the first thing is enduring this hurdle. Of course, this is a hurdle. And as we said a few minutes ago, it's impacting a lot of people, millions of people, from large corporations down to the individual person in a family to the entire family. And so the first thing is to endure that hardship, to find novel ways to solve the problems that we are encountering, and to persevere despite these challenges that are at times outside of our control, but finding things that are within our control. So we are going to adjust our focus to our values, to what is really important in this situation, try to eliminate the ruminating fears that are around us, and knowing as long as it's been 40 days, yes, it's been 40 days, but it's not, and it will come to an end, and it isn't insurmountable. And that's a big part of resilience too. Sometimes we see the challenge in front of us like a mountain, but we need to take little baby steps, to focus on what we can control and try to learn new things around this shutdown. We also need to focus on being empathetic and emotionally intelligent when dealing with other people who are also dealing with this situation. Sometimes people can shut down, sometimes people get angry, sometimes people get callous when challenges hit. And as Christians, this isn't our perspective. We need to be empathetic and understanding and be kind to one another, which is really important. And then we need to develop new ways to be creative and effective in this situation and figure out what resources are missing. So the resources that could be missing could be communication problems, could be conflict in our goals and our values. There could be an issue related to our needs, related to resources being limited. How do we manage resources being limited in this kind of situation? If you're interacting with somebody who's helping you or you're helping them, and one of you has unclear expectations, you're definitely going to have a challenge in that regard as well. And so there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of pressure. But what happens is the real important need to communicate the needs that are occurring. And again, doing so in an empathetic, emotionally intelligent way so that you can communicate the needs that are around you and find the right solutions that will help you solve this problem. So that's going to take active listening to your colleagues, to your peers, to other people that are in the same boat, or even if they're not in the same boat, maybe learning from their successes and them learning from your successes. So all of these things can happen together. Active listening is really important for resilience because if you don't understand what the other person is experiencing, or you don't even understand what you're experiencing, how can you solve that problem? So your understanding has to come from listening to understand, not listening to respond. And responding with understanding, responding with how you can help with those needs. But you're basically trying to gather more information about what is valuable, what are your immediate needs, what are your long term needs, and then finding solutions to each of those different areas.
Yeah, based with what you're saying, it's very important during these days to have the skill of adaptation. We need to adapt to the changes. We cannot just keep our lives keep going as it is at any level, personal level and professional level. We need to change. We need to give ourselves the the opportunity to start thinking outside of the box. And what I mean by that, we might have a certain lifestyle that we are used to have. When such big changes happen into our lives, we need to be flexible and start taking steps toward making some changes. Because if we stay in our comfort zone and blindsided everything, like things gonna be all right soon, things gonna be okay soon. Okay, that's very optimistic. I understand. We are optimistic as resilient people, but we have also to be aware that things cannot go as we wish. We need to make sure that we make some changes here so we can keep our lifestyle with the basics to be safe. Otherwise, we're gonna have issues in the near future that we didn't calculate. So that's the power of adaptation, or the skill of adaptation and being flexible to change, is very important in resiliency. So we can lead our lives in a way that we can protect what we have without panicking, without having the fear of what if I don't do that? What if I did that? So because the what if, usually it comes with the critter mind. It just freaks out when change is happening. And that's where I highly recommend to be aware about, don't be afraid from changing, but be aware that not to change can have some consequences that you don't want to have. At least be aware of this. And for that, there is three
Mhm.
levels that we can approach here, Christine. Well, there is, first, on the family level, what to do with the kids, how to do with marriage, how we maintain relationships in such hard times, because everything is getting impacted by that. Financially, stress, anxiety, that's where raise more conflicts, more, a misunderstanding between couples, between family, between parents and kids, and so on. So it will have a lot of impact. So we can approach this. Second, we're gonna approach also, we need to approach the entrepreneurs. People, like, they have small businesses and they are trying to, keep moving forward, building their businesses, and that's where what they need to learn or to have to make sure that they can survive what's happening. And also for the corporations or big businesses, there's a lot of challenges here, because also the dynamics of the economy and the political changes, not only in the state but also abroad, international level, there's a huge changing happening. How they can be prepared to face all what's happening on economic level, technology level, politic level, everything, because they're individuals, they're teams, they're gonna be impacted, and we need to make sure that those people, they are, like, protected, and they have all the tools, skills, equipped and ready to go. So that's the thing that we need to start approaching, so we can just make some positive impact on those three categories that impacts not only our communities but also the whole nation. And basically it's gonna also relatively impact the world, because this is the states, it's just the center of the world now. So if it's shaked, it's the whole world will shake.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so we have to figure out where in the structure things may be breaking down, whether again it's in the home structure or it's in the business structure, but we're basically looking for where is the root cause of these needs. And everybody in the team, in the company, or even in the home needs to be able to have a free space to speak without fear. And then we establish clear priorities. Where are the priorities that you need? Because, like you said, if there's a problem with scarcity because of these shutdowns, then we need to prioritize. What do we cover first? What do we cover second? And negotiate and compromise and kind of have a mediation between, all of the different needs and promote kind of collaboration and cooperation and these kinds of things. The issue is that, there's sometimes differences in personalities, there's differences in perspectives, there's differences in who thinks what is the most important issue to cover first. There's individual biases, there's negative interpretations of things. And so we have to take all of these different things into consideration, but we can't be ambiguous, because when we're ambiguous, then we can't really be resilient. So we need to figure out what is the priority, where is the kind of holes that need to be plugged first, and start with those areas and then work from there. Ultimately, if there's ineffective leadership, the problems are going to get worse because it really starts at the top. Again, whether that's at the house with the parents, it will trickle down to the kids. If it's a problem at the boss of the company, it'll trickle down to the employees. So we can't have ineffective leadership. It has to be bold, strong, discerning, wise, addressing the problems of the company, hearing everybody's perspective. Effective leadership is truly individuals that are clear. They make good, clear decisions, and these are also things that are applicable to resilience, regardless of the struggle. Their leadership is relevant to the times that we are in. It is very timely to the time that they're in. It's very specific to how they're going to fix the problems. They're honest. They're not beating around the bush and trying to hide things and not tell the truth, or because the truth always comes out. And they have to be kind of task directed, targeted in their behavior, actionable in their behavior, and explaining things as they go along. But people that are vague or, wishy washy in what they're doing, or blaming others rather than taking accountability, or manipulative in some way, again, whether that's in the home front or in the work front, that's not going to work, especially in times of crisis. So, a person who's a leader is decisive, and they figure out quickly how to manage the situation without shaming or blaming or manipulating or any of those things. So I think those are important qualities for leadership in crisis.
Let's approach the families. During these hard times, you know,
Yeah.
Christine, that we both have kids, and there is two ways now that I think we need to start considering. First, how far we should get our kids involved in daily life, in house management, and money management, how to make them prepared for what's coming. Because if
Hmm.
they need to start getting involved in what we are doing, or getting involved in our businesses, or getting involved in taking care of the house, or taking care, like being aware more about the money spending, like how far we go with the activities, everything. When
Great
when
question.
Because when we are just living hardships, you need to adapt. That means you have to let go a few things that can be dangerous. You know, we might think at the beginning that, I have to make my son or my daughter to go to the piano and ballet and tennis and XYZ, six, seven activities during the week. But hold on. If that continue like that, you're spending tons of money that can disrupt their life in the near future, and that can put them in a little bit in a place that all what we are building now, if the house collapse, everything will go away. That's the danger that can families go through if the house collapse from inside. We need to maintain that
Hmm.
the relationship with the parents is still, empowered by being more resilient, and by that to keep the communication channels open, to be more understanding that we need to make some changes. For example, if I say, let's say we are a couple and we go say, you know what, I'm gonna put my kids in doing five activities during the week so we can enrich them. This is excellent by third, by it's by all means. But what if? But you're gonna say, but hey, Romeo, we don't have enough money to survive with all the activities. So what do you? How do you think here? Are you like, when you try to manage the situation? Do you stop those activities? Do you reduce them, or you just keep doing what you're doing and saying, things will get, hopefully things will go better. That's three options. They are very, very, very critical. And in my opinion, if you just keep things as it is, that can endanger the money level in the house, and that can disrupt the whole family, because then the quarrels, when lack of money is there, oh my God, then everything starts to be tense, because the fear of paying the bills, paying the mortgage, paying the car loan, XYZ, keep the business running. So everything will be disrupted because the money was going to be shrinking. But at the same time, there will be personal conflict. What I do with my kids, I'm gonna like, not giving them what they need, I will be XYZ. I will be feeling like shame. I was not able to give them. So I'm gonna take back from them what they're enjoying. But we need to make some balance here. Keep the house.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to
absolutely.
keep the house above their heads first.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I know when things are challenging, I'm sure in your household with your wife and your kids, you do discuss these hard things with them and finding that balance, and anytime there is a challenge, I've had challenging challenges in my own household this year with some damage, and so some things had to be cut out so that you could focus on the priority of, the damage and getting the insurance in here to fix the things in my house. And I'm glad you're able to, discuss those things with your children and your spouse, like you're discussing, as you're saying right now. And it is important to not frighten your children because they may not have the entire perspective of everything that's going on. I know my kids, saw all the water when we had the water damage in our house this year. And it's important to kind of explain to them and how we're going to maneuver around this situation. And as the parent, as the adult in my house, I had to, take charge and educate them and explain to them, but also, tell them that we are okay. We're going to be okay as a family. The insurance is going to come in. It's going to fix these things. And that indeed is what happened. So I think as a leader, as the father in your household, and as the mom in my household, I think it is important to prepare them, to prepare the people, and even as leaders in business or as a professor, as a whatever I am, in these situations, you are preparing the people that are kind of under you and explaining and teaching and communicating, but also taking charge and being bold that it's going to be, okay, we're going to figure this out together as a family. And that's, I think, that what a good leader is meant to do. A good leader is sent to serve, not be served. They're sent to kind of prioritize the needs. They're still humble through the process, but they have integrity and honesty. Again, they educate, but they're bold and they make impact and they influence. And I'm sure you do that in your family. I know I try to do that in my family, but it is certainly difficult when you yourself are being challenged by things that are outside of your control. And so, like you were saying before, this is where you have to adapt and be flexible and learn yourself, but also not to allow the people around you to be frightened, but know that you're going to work together. The four of you in your home is to work together to get the situation resolved. And that's how you act as a leader, even within your own house.
We need to start giving our kids responsibilities to handle inside the house, to be aware about what's going on, not to expose everything from parents' perspective, but to start making them involved because that's how you start preparing leadership within your kids. If you keep them not aware about what's going on with the minimum level, they will think that life is full of roses. And when they are in that situation, when things happen in their lives, they will collapse. Now is the best time to start making them aware that there's things needs to be changed, because if you keep them on this soft edge, they'll be so soft when they grow up. They will be exposed to really dangerous situations because they will say, this never happened before. But what's happening that parents are very protective, and sometimes we become overprotecting our kids, and that can be very dangerous because the kids are
Yes.
not exposed to anything. They're just exposed to luxury life, to being getting what they want for everything they need, and nothing they should be worried about. But that can be not the real thing. It's not the real deal. It's not the truth about living a life. Living a life, they need to start
Hmm.
knowing that there is, you know, there should be some balance. And because if we just open everything for them and protect them 100%, that can just make them fragile when they go outside. And we know
Hmm.
that, sooner or later, they're going to be exposed to the world when they go to the college or university, like in different state.
Right.
How are you going to help them? With the money? So
Right.
that's where it's very important to start building resiliency from this age. And that's where during those hard times we are going through, we can take those challenges and hardships and start, shaping that resiliency within our kids and to prepare them step by step, little by little, to be
Hmm.
future leaders so they can lead their lives and they know things can go a little bit tough and that
Right.
can shape things. So that's the
Right.
perspective about, if we think about family level. So what do you
Hmm.
have on this, Christine? How do you see it from your own perspective?
Yeah, I completely agree. There is some things that they need to be shielded from, like I said, so they're not afraid. And again, it's age appropriate. But I 100% agree that resilience is a muscle that needs to be built, and it can only be built in hardship. So there is no resilience without challenge. There is no resilience without things unraveling. There is no resilience without there being hardship. There's a lot of people that think that resilience means that, you just kind of just get strong and then you forget about all the difficulties. That isn't true. Resilience is the product of persevering and continuing through and being mentored through and believing that you can, even during a time of hardship and a time of challenge. And so, as Christians, we always believe in hope. From a psychological perspective, though, hope is about action. It's not just believing things are going to get better. We do believe things are going to get better as Christians, but the added step with psychological research on hope is what action am I putting into this? And so, not just staying status quo, and in my case it was like water damage that I was mentioning in my house. I don't just stand in the puddle of water and say, oh, it's going to get better. I have to take action. I have to call the insurance company. I have to call contractors. I have to call people and negotiate things. And as my kids were watching me do this, they're learning, they're being mentored, they're looking through the situation. And this took a significant chunk of this year dealing with that hardship, but they saw a strong mom dealing with that situation, building on the strengths that God gave me, taking what God has given me, building on what I have to bring to the table, and bridging relationships in that with contractors and plumbers and whatever else was needed, and being able to kind of focus on this. They learned through that process, so I didn't shield them, I taught them. And when we say we discipline kids, it actually comes from discipleship or modeling or training somebody to do something in a hard time, not hiding from it, not running away, not putting your head in the sand, but facing it. And that's a big part of resilience.
That's amazing. This is so beautiful what you just said. It's really that's practically how things goes in life. Not to shield them,
Hmm.
not to make them under fear,
Yep.
but to start mentoring them about how to deal with life. And that's also
Yep.
now my son when he came back from deployment. So I just said, "Hey, Dad, let's start working together. I need your support." And actually, some parents and kids they don't always get along. But I said, "Look, Dad, I'm doing this. I have this back office work and I have this front office work. So I need all the support here." So I exposed to him my problem. And then he volunteered. He said, "Okay, Dad, you know what? I'm going to start helping you." So now he start learning things. And you can see that there's a lot of things that needs to learn. And he said, "Wow, there's a lot. So let me take it like, I don't want to get the elephant to one time. So I'm going to get it in by small bites." So I respected that, of course, and that's how it should be. So, but he's now getting involved, and that's part of mentoring him so he can later on, when he comes to his own business, he will know that
Hmm.
there is hardships. There is know that he has to manipulate this, and he will already have some skills. It will be built in. That's through mentoring him and accepting the fact of having dealing with a business and life needs a lot of skills and understanding, maneuvering skills, adaptation, being flexible, open to learn more, being disciplined so he can just build up things so it can help him to lead his life and then he lead his business or lead his position wherever he's going to work later on in life. So that's
Yeah.
and from there I'm gonna jump. based on the word mentoring to the small businesses where the entrepreneurs now they are struggling a lot about what happened now during the last 40 days. It's not only about the shutdown. The shutdown, it happened before, but this time was really long. It impacted everyone. And now we are heading
Yeah.
into the Thanksgiving, and all the travel, air travel is disrupted. It's not safe, and airplanes on the ground, and you cannot just do it like that, and then you click it and
Hmm.
everything is on. People were sent home. People are struggling to
Hmm.
go back now, and they
Yeah.
were not paid, and now they were in the middle. They were in the limbo. Like, are we going back? Do
Hmm.
we go search for a new job? So those are huge
Yeah.
situations that people went through, and they are like in the limbo. Why we have no clue what we're gonna do. We are like freaking out, and they have all the right for that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
how we handle this? Should we freak out, or we go and try to take swallow that challenge and see what to do next? And that's where you know entrepreneurs, especially I'm talking about the small businesses and entrepreneurs, it's the best time to start building their resiliency and understanding and learning the skills that they need to overcome challenges that they had recently. Like, I have a friend of mine that he works in commercial cleaning and carpet cleaning and those stuff. This is a small business. I was telling him, hey, come join me to a networking group that we are doing. He said, Romeo, I don't have time. I'm fully booked. And I was talking to him yesterday. I said, Romeo, you know what? After like this was like 3 weeks ago. That was the conversation. Now he said, Romeo, I don't know what's happening, but everything's just shutting down. All the business that I had, they're just delaying me. Said, "Like, can we do it later? Can we do it later?" So some people, they even, stop their contract, like freezing them. And that was very alarming. Okay, how we deal
Hmm.
with the businesses, how we diversified, how we keep money on the side. So when moments like this happens, we need to survive, and what to do next. Do we still doing things as it is, but with the lack of businesses or opportunities, the business will slow down? Are we prepared mentally to just challenge, to face those challenges, or we collapse? Those things that were, employers, entrepreneurs, they need to start learning, and that's by being open to like, to take into consideration, taking those trainings about resiliency, about leadership
Hmm.
skills, about any skill, being open for AI, being open for understanding things behind the scenes. Like, okay, now I cannot handle to
Absolutely.
get a CPA to do my accounting. What can I do about this? And so on. So those the steps they take to be proactive, as you mentioned, that
Hmm.
those things needs action. Are they ready, are
Yep.
willing to do the actions to adapt to those situations and
Hmm.
make some changes? Or they just stay in the statico
Yeah.
and wait for things to happen?
Hmm. Yeah, I do agree with the mentorship, and I agree definitely that, and even this is in the resilience research, some supportive figure. So when you were talking about your son earlier, it's important that he knows he has support. So, even people that you work with in your company, that you are there to support each other, that's really important as well. Even if things are challenging, you have people that you can fall back on, whether it's in your family or friends or colleagues or whatever, that you're not alone. Because again, loneliness in and of itself is another problem. It's an epidemic, and people start to fall apart when they're by themselves. So it's good that you were reaching out to that friend of yours. It is important that we have connections, and those connections again make you feel like you're supported even through a hardship, like businesses shutting down, the airlines shutting down. Unfortunately, even people having food shortages with benefits being cut down in that way. And so there's a lot of interwoven kind of problems. They're all interwoven together, and they all, are creating problems for each other. So the more support that we have, and if I can help you with this area and you can help me with this area, then it won't seem as hard. And so that's important in business and in family. you're not by yourself. Pick up a phone and call somebody or have them call you or vice versa, but to try to find some sort of support, somebody that knows a little bit more in this area than you. And when they can help you, that's what's going to make things feel a little lighter. And again, that is also a biblical concept, the concept of community. And as Christians, we know the importance of community and connection with other people. So when you're in a struggle, don't run and hide. Face the struggle, but try to take people along with you, and it'll feel lighter. We're supposed to carry one another's burdens, as the verse says.
And keep walking forward and relying on God, because God
Yes.
will help you to move forward. He will give you hope, and that's what made both of us and so many people that I know keep moving forward in hardships. Because when having that belief in God,
Mm.
we know that even the hardships, He will be walking with us, and we
Yes.
can walk through the valley
Yes.
of death. And that's what it is. It's when you're going into hardships, you feel lonely, you feel alone, you feel like, oh, your house is collapsing on your head. But
Yeah.
God will
Yeah.
always bring people to your life that will just inspire you, that will give you hints, that even will support you
Mhm.
in a way you can never imagine. And that
Yeah.
can be in a physical way, or in an emotional way, or in a spiritual way. We need also to understand that we are not just material human beings. We are mixed of
Yeah.
emotional,
Yeah.
spiritual, mentally, and physical well-being. We are very complex. So don't just think that the physical part will be the only thing. We need to be aware that we need to nourish all these, because if we lack in nourishing one of them, we might have some lack of balance. We will not be able to balance them all the time, that's for sure. But at least working and being proactive and keep these balance, these four categories balanced in a way to keep us like seeing what's happening and being aware about what's happening, so we can move on and be able to overcome the challenges. Otherwise it's going to be more, really it's going to be tough, and that's no one wants to be. We want to be able to just walk through the hardships and be aware of it with all our senses, with all our awareness,
Mhm.
and also to have some hope, which is kind of for us as men of God and women of God. We rely on God on keep things moving forward, because without Him, it's gonna be really, really difficult to keep moving, because we don't have
Absolutely.
the enough energy and endurance to keep moving into hardship. It's like that weight on our shoulders.
Yep.
What comes, the more we walk with all the weight, we're gonna be more fragile. But God would just, put His finger there, and we're gonna like make those changes to happen and see the brighter side, that we can overcome this. We can do it. But have the faith in God
Yeah.
and in yourself that you're gonna make it with Him, by just being, by having faith in Him and keep walking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we discussed a lot of wonderful points today on, especially when things are outside of our control. Something like this government shutdown, it's outside of our control that it happened, when it will end, how long it will take, how to come back from that. All of those things are outside of our control. But what is in our control, I think, even to just kind of summarize the many points we talked about today, great points. First is potentially to prune away the things that are not important. And when we prune, it's very hard to do and very challenging to let go of things, but to focus on the things that are the most valuable, changing in the lifestyle, again, being flexible. Community is very, very important. Being able to teach children and teach, family members how to respond to hardship in a positive way, with faith, with confidence that we will get through this. It is not insurmountable. And again, community is really, really important, not just within the family, but mentorship within your community, within your colleagues, within those kinds of things. And all of these things together during times of hardship, managing and controlling the things that you can control, because you can't control everything. So manage with it what is within reach, and that'll help you get closer to the goals that you have. Staying grounded in your values, your Christian values, your values about leadership, your values about morality and all of those different things, it's important to stay grounded in those truths when everything around you is outside of your control. And ultimately, I think I would end by saying just take baby steps. Just take one tiny step at a time, and you will climb out of the situation that you're in. It truly sometimes feels huge and uncontrollable. And what do I do next? Just take the next correct step. And one step will lead to another one, will lead to another one, will lead to another one, and you'll climb out of it. I do hope, that all of this shutdown stuff resolves soon, the airplanes, the food supply, all of that stuff. I hope this stuff improves. I know there's millions that are suffering, but there is hope, and there is always hope in Christ. And there's hope even in the strengths that he gives us to climb out of these situations. We are not alone.
And I join my voice to yours, and I will just sum up with three important things that went through this conversation. That first, be able, have to adapt. You need to adapt to what's happening, and have the ability and the mindset to be flexible to change. And with that, go and check your life and see what you can declutter. That can help you. You cannot get a new furniture while you have the old furniture sitting there. You need to change things. You need to get rid of things, and you need to bring new stuff into your life so you can keep moving forward. And that needs adaptation, flexibility, and decluttering. So if you work on these things during those hardships, believe me, you're going to make some positive changes in your life so you can keep up moving forward. And you can apply this to your family and to your small business and even to your corporation, because that's how we survive in handling crisis like this one that we had and we are going through. And that's how it goes. So hang in there, do what needs to be done, and move on with your life. Thanks for joining us on the Christian Leadership and Resilience podcast.
If this episode has encouraged you, share it with your friends, leave a review, and stay connected with us on social media.
Next time, we'll dive into another topic that will boost your resilient leadership. Until then,
lead fearlessly
serve humbly.
and rise strongly in faith.
God bless.